Hey guys, good morning. It's Jennifer. It's been an interesting couple weeks, hasn't it? I feel like I was lucky. I feel like I got to skip a little bit of some of the drama that's been going on because I was on vacation. But anyway, I'm back at it. So happy Monday morning. I'm going to be using two different decks today. The Wisdom of the Hidden Realms is a correlate baron-reid deck. And it was really interesting because I don't usually use this butterfly deck. But I really feel like I'm supposed to use this butterfly deck today as well. So just being drawn to those two decks means that the hidden realms to me always means like something either karmic or beyond this realm. So like usually to me that means more galactic energy. So there's something going on behind the scenes that we're going to be, I feel like these cards are going to give us some insight to, some clarity for. So as with all the readings that I do, just tune into the cards, start imagining like which one you feel like you're drawn to already before I even lay the cards out. And interestingly enough, I'm going to do 3 and 3, which again, I don't usually do that, but that's what I'm being called to today. So we're going to do 3 cards from the Hidden Realms. That one almost fell. And then we'll do 3 from the butterfly deck. Just pick the ones that feel like you're drawn to. So I'll do 3 cards there. And then I'll do 3 from the butterfly deck. So it's really been interesting too. The one thing that I will say is that it feels like, I know in some of the last readings that I've done, I feel like we're being told that it's like we're learning a new way of life. And what came to me this weekend, actually, whenever I was tuning in, and I wish now I would have recorded it, but I was driving and I didn't have very good service, so I wasn't able to actually record the thoughts that I have, but I can remember them very clearly. So I'm going to ask my guides now to remind me of what it was exactly they wanted me to say about that. And basically, what was coming up, and this is kind of separate from the card reading, but this is a message that I wanted to get out to everybody. So the one thing that they were saying to me is that if you guys have watched my the Melchizedek video that I did, I can't remember, I want to say it was the beginning of May, end of April, somewhere around there. There was a video that I did with Melchizedek, and Melchizedek came in and told me that this is like ancient wisdom beyond our understanding. And that I remember just being flabbergasted because I was looking through the Bible. It's like pre-Genesis. So this is like ancient beyond anything that we know. Okay, so they're coming in to teach us a new way to live. And it's going to be much more heart-centered. And one thing that I thought was really interesting is I was actually talking to a friend of mine the other day, and it came up with her too. And it was that they're teaching us how to literally live from our heart center. And everybody here has some kind of service. Like whether you know it or not, we're all here to learn lessons, to be on this planet, like to experience the human life, like what it's like to be human. And then also we all have a gift of service. Okay, it can be very simple. It can be a gift of hospitality. It can be a gift of healing. It could be a gift of empathy, understanding other people. It could be, you know what I mean? And like, so what was really interesting is and I've said this before, like even, 3 or 4 years ago when I first wrote the first book, Embodied Grace, A Woman's Path to Empowerment, like that is about stepping into a life of empowerment that's for you. And I know I used to laugh and say, it doesn't matter if you're meant to be a brain surgeon or a bartender, like whichever one makes you happy, right? So like if you come from a family that says, oh, you'll never be a brain surgeon because we don't have that money, or that's not the status that we have or whatever, but you're really called to be a brain surgeon, you need to figure out, follow that, because the divine is going to step in and make ways to make that happen. The same token, we've got to just completely let go of our preconceived notions about how life has to be done on this planet. And so if you don't let anybody to also tell you that being a bartender or a waitress is beneath you, because those are all part of being in service in this planet. Like it's all part of it. And so what was interesting is what came up is I told her, I said, well, what's going to be really interesting is they're teaching us to be in a heart-led way. And so if we come in with this soul contract of this service of our service to the world is going to be that we're going to be a medical doctor, but we don't have any support in that. And so we don't follow our heart. We listen to our gut and do what is reasonable, right? And so we become a teacher or something. That's not in line with our heart, because even though that's still noble and that's still a really valid, important job, it's not being a doctor. And the same thing, like if you really, really enjoy waiting tables and you're really good at it, but your family says, no, you have to go be, you know, a astronaut or whatever. Like it doesn't really, like it, why I'm pulling these really big ones like out of nowhere is because it doesn't matter what the job is. What matters is if your heart resonates with it. And so for the people that like aren't following what their heart says, they're going to feel miserable. And I think that's what's happened all along, but we didn't understand that it doesn't matter what job it is. All of those acts of service are valid and are all equal in divine truth. Okay, so when we can start following whatever it is that we feel makes our heart happy, that is really going to be what unlocks our life in this newness that we're stepping into. Because I know, so we have this ancient wisdom coming through. Okay, so that's where Melchizedek comes in. Knowing that we're at the end of the cliff, right? Like that was the end of May, the reading that I did then. It was like, we're at the edge of this cliff and we've got to decide what are we taking with us and what are we not. So what are the hurts, the wounds, the guilt, the shame, the whatever it is that you can let go of so that you don't have to carry those through. And then how do we start fully being authentically who we are and understanding that whatever's imprinted on our heart is our act of service, okay? And not minimalizing the acts of service that society would call small, okay? Because sometimes those are the most important. Like I remember years ago, I had a client that I was working with, and she really honestly had the gift of hospitality. Like her favorite thing to do was to have Sunday dinner and be that safe space for her family. And I remember when we finally got to that, and I said, well, what if that's your sole purpose? Like, what if you could just know that that's your purpose, is to serve those people and to be that safe place? And like everything shifted for her, because she had her whole life felt like that wasn't enough. But it was more than enough in God's eyes, because she was nurturing people, gave them a safe place to be who they were, which allowed them to go out into the world and do what they needed to do. Does that make sense? So like, we need to quit minimalizing whatever our personal gift of service is. So anyway, that was kind of the message that was coming through the other day. Anyway, getting back to the cards. So so this is really interesting because I've used these cards before and I've never noticed, I don't know, can you see that right there? It's like a little butterfly. So how interesting that I'm using the correlate baron-reid wisdom of the hidden realms, and I felt led to use the butterflies here today. That's really interesting to me, and I've never noticed that on this deck before. Oh, and there's a fairy sitting. I have never noticed that before either. Look right there. There's a fairy right there, and there's a butterfly right there. I don't know if you guys can see it. I hope you can in the video, but anyway, so that's interesting that I've seriously never noticed that before. Well, that one just fell out. And now that I'm looking closer, oh my goodness, there are little tiny, like either butterflies or fairies or something all over in these. I've used this deck, I don't even know how many times, and I've never noticed that before. So just that alone is telling me that we're in this huge time of transformation, because the reason the butterfly is always so significant is it's transformation, okay? And we have to remember too that transformation isn't always easy breezy, right? Like it can be kind of difficult. And so if you think about the caterpillar in the chrysalis breaking out of that, it's a little bit painful to break out of that and become the butterfly, right? But once it does, it's so much more beautiful. So there's a lot of transformation happening And I'm hearing it's happening on all levels. Like, it's not just happening for us. Like, this is a cosmic, galactic, everything that is transformation right now. Like, I really truly believe that everything in the cosmos is being there's like a huge transformation happening. Okay, so that being said, I know that there is outside help coming to this planet for us. There's a lot more angelic beings that are showing up. There's a lot more galactic beings that are showing up. Like, there's a lot of light coming in to try to help us. And I don't know if you guys saw the other video that I did on YouTube. This has been a few months ago. If I can remember, I'll try to link it to this one. But I remember making, it was like a figure 8 pattern, and it was like, if everything is tied together. Let me see if I can just find a piece of paper, and I'll just show you guys. So if everything is tied together, and if everything is like in this pattern, like, that's a terrible circle 8. But so if we were to say that everything is like a circle 8 pattern, right? So like, if we have that, and we know that everything is connected, like in divine truth, we know that everything is connected, right? So throughout all of the galaxy, everything's connected. We're just this little blip in this whole thing, right? And so if Earth was in this pattern, like, it doesn't matter where I would put that on the point. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just, I'm just picking a place to put it. That should have continuity, and the vibration should blend throughout the entire cosmos. However, Earth has made such a mess that it's caused this little glitch, and it's throwing off the divine harmony pattern. Okay. And so this was a few months ago that this came in, and my guides were like, okay, we're coming to help because realistically, you guys are messing up everything. Like, and I'm kind of saying that jokingly, but basically what they're saying is the planet Earth has gotten so off track that it's literally causing vibrations that's causing ripple effects that's making it hard for everyone. Like, the entire anything that exists. Like, and I know that sounds really dramatic, but that was the message that I got from my guides. I'm gonna have to take a drink of coffee. Hang on. Okay. Okay, so that being said, we have a lot of new light coming in to help us. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of transformation. I've kind of said this before. Those of us that resist what this changes are, those of us that resist healing, those of us that are resisting forgiveness, those of us that are stuck in the muck and the mire, so to speak, like, if you're still holding on to a way of being where, you know, somebody needs to pay, or it's their fault, or, you know, any victim, like, it's not my fault that my life is like this because everybody else did this to me, like, those kind of patterns are really going to be, I mean, beyond uncomfortable. It's going to be, I want to say it's going to be miserable. And that sounds terrible. Like, I don't want to forecast that or foreshadow that or like project that onto anyone. But I'm just saying, the more that you can be in a state of grace, the more that you can be in a state of understanding that everybody has their own shit and that everybody's working at it their own way, the more you can be in that space and work on forgiveness, first of all, for yourself, and then also forgiving the others that have what you feel like they've done this to you. If you can shift that and be like, wow, that was a really hard experience that I had, and they played a part in that, but not like, if you can drop the blame, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If you can drop the blame and just be like, okay, this is what it is. Now, how do I forgive it, release it, heal it, and move on? How do I allow more light in? How do I let go of those feelings, those thoughts, those patterns of keeping me in lack? Because anything of that's not love is lack, right? So like, if you feel like you don't have enough of love, or if you don't have enough of, you know, money or whatever it is, like, if you feel like you don't have enough, or it's somebody else's fault that your life isn't happy, your life isn't good, that's blaming, that's putting that outside of you. If you can bring it within and say, okay, even though this happened, I'm going to choose to, you know, let that go. I'm going to choose to heal that. I'm going to choose to step into the light. I'm going to choose to, even though I know it may have hurt, and maybe I have a scar, but you know what? That scar isn't festered and bleeding anymore. There's no pus coming out of it. I can allow it to heal and just be a healthy scar, right? I don't know if that's making any sense, but that's kind of what my guys are saying, is like moving out of the trauma, drama, BS, and just moving into, yes, life happened. Yes, I've got, you know, Francesca Ballesteros. I can't remember how you say her last name, but she's got that song um, about like I've got a little bump in my fender, got some rips in my jeans or something like that. And like, yeah, that's what life is. You're gonna have some bumps and bruises, and you're gonna have some scars. But if you can allow those scars to heal, and then, okay, for example, I have a scar, a really bad scar on my finger. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I didn't allow it to not let me use my hand, right? Like it still sometimes hurts. I still sometimes get a really, especially right here in that crease, like I'll still sometimes get a really bad like twinge, but like I don't let it stop me from picking things up, right? So it's kind of the same way with emotional scars, emotional wounds. Like we need to heal those so that we can move on and not let it stop us from living a life of love and grace. Okay, so that's kind of, wow, this is not where I thought today's call was going. But anyway, that's what it is. So, okay, we'll get to the cards now. So just pick the cards, whichever ones resonate to you. There's 3 of the hidden realms, 3 of the butterfly deck, and we'll see what it has to say. Okay, so the first one says, I'm just going to flip them all. Okay, so the first one says, the map maker of destiny, authentic purpose, inspiration, and free will. Okay, so if you guys have this deck, you can look up this card. But I mean, it sounds like I'm saying what I already did about finding your authentic purpose, finding your free, like using your free will to follow your own heart and your own guidance instead of people. Like I feel like that's really huge right now because we talk about free will a lot, about like, you know, we have this destiny in the cosmos mapped out. Like, you know, in the Bible it says our days are numbered and God already knows what we're going to do, right? But we have free will, so we don't have to always follow that. But what if we flip that, and what if we use free will and that you're going to do what your heart feels instead of what society says you should do? I think that's like, I feel like there's really something in that. Like that feels really huge to me. I'm going to just look at her book because I like to, I know some people say don't look at the books because you should go with what you feel. But on the other hand, the people that make these decks have an intention. And so I feel like it's good to still use the book just to see kind of what they say. Okay, so this one says, when the mapmaker of destiny appears, it's a sign that you're being given an opportunity to transform fate into destiny. At birth, each human being is given a unique map with a myriad of paths that intersect with one another. Your map of destiny shows all the places you're meant to visit, places where you'll be challenged to evolve into the highest aspects of yourself. Remember that you're a spark of the divine, come to earth to experience itself in human form. As such, your path is unique. It's also somewhat preordained, and fate presents the events in your life that were meant to happen and that you can't change. Fate is transformed into destiny according on how you respond to your circumstances. Destiny offers you the ability to make great opportunities out of fated experiences, so free will and choice are possible at certain points on your map, or points on your map. Now is one of those times. You're faced with a relationship or circumstance brought to you by fate. How you respond will lead you into your perfect destiny. To me, this is really like everything I just said. Like, so this is like it's that time, right? So like it's really time for you to step into your life in a heart-led way. So, and I really, they're really saying use your own free will of knowing what's right for you instead of following what everybody thinks you should do. Okay. This one says the word Lord, communication, praise, and dishonesty. It's kind of funny that this is coming up right now because I know it's Mercury retrograde and I can feel it because I feel like I'm having a hard time talking. So communication, praise, and dishonesty. So, okay, so this is interesting because there's a couple things that are coming to me right now on this card. Do you see how he's writing in the book? Oh, Sorry, I had a call trying to come in. I apologize for that. Okay, so do you see how he's trying to write in the book? The funny thing that's coming to me about this is like, be careful about how, like, if you're taking stock or like if you're keeping track of things that people, I almost feel like somebody, whoever's listening to this, might have, um, somebody might be like tit for tat, like keeping track of everything, if that makes sense. It's so weird to me, but that's what I'm getting. It's almost like be careful of like not, maybe just let some of that go. Like if you're one of those people that's keeping record of who's wronged you, maybe it's time to burn that book. Okay. I'm gonna go to the book and see. It says the word Lord rules the communication of all kinds and lets you know that positive interactions can be expected when he arrives as your ally. He only speaks with positive words and praises all he sees. He reminds you of the laws of abundance and praise. When you bless the world, it blesses you back. When you say affirming, supportive words, they carry an energy that returns to you in physical form. Remember that each one has the power and will to resonate into the universe, seeking its reflection in manifest form. Your body responds to praise and does everything in the world around you, as does everything in the world around you. Praise it for its inherent health and beauty. Applaud yourself for everything you do, as even the tiniest accomplishments are important. Praise your bills, give thanks to them for the service you enjoy, and watch the ability to pay them increase as you align with Spirit's increasing power. This is a time to remember the powerful practice of affirmations. Write them down, speak them aloud as a spiritual exercise. Okay, so this is really interesting because, well, first of all, this is great because this really, really resonates with the Angels of Abundance course that I'm doing in August. I still have a few spots left for that, so if you want to get into that, but it's so true. Like if you're keeping track and remembering, reciting everything that everybody's done for you, more of that kind of energy is going to come to you. So it really is time to burn that book. Like if you have that kind of thing, or if you're always telling everybody about what people have done to you, it's time to quit doing that, because what you're doing is creating more of that as you do it. That being said, when you praise something, so when you do affirmations, when you praise abundance, when you are happy and grateful for, and I don't mean grateful and, oh my God, you should be so grateful that you have that, but grateful and like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I have hot water. I'm so glad that I can drink coffee. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we take for granted the luxuries that we have. And so if you're really, really struggling, if you're really broke right now, or if you're really, having lack of any kind right now, I would look at what do you need to forgive and how can you start speaking words of life into whatever that is. Because the more you talk about it in a positive way, the more positive will come. But when you're this is like those people that are constantly nagging and complaining. You know, if you're around them and they're nagging and complaining all the time, you just feel worn out. Like, and what happens is they're creating more of that energy around them. So try your hardest to, and this isn't saying that life is always roses, but it's just saying look for the roses among the thorns. You know what I mean? So like, when I first started learning about law of attraction, that was the one thing I did is I wouldn't do my bills from a place where I was like, oh shit, I hope I can pay the bill. I would make myself get into a place of abundant, like happiness and abundance. And I would say, oh my God, I'm so glad that I can write a check to pay for the electricity that the company gave me like last month. Like they gave me the electricity before I could even pay for it. How cool is that they gave it to me first, right? So it's just little tiny things that you can do to switch your thinking about the way things are. And then the Fire Prince is this one. It's number 40. And it's saying optimism and aggression. And so basically optimism is good. Like when there's fire, that makes you want to, like, you know, you hear the saying, light a fire under their butt, right? To get them moving. So that's good because that's energy is moving, like it's time to move, but also be careful that it doesn't turn into anger and aggression, right? So you can be aggressively going after your goals and you can be aggressively happy and that's all great. So be careful of whenever there's fire. I'm like, it's always one of those things where A fire is really, really good, but it can also get out of control, right? So just kind of watch that for yourself, um, if that's the card that makes sense to you. And Colette Baron-Reid says in her book that when the Fire Prince arrives as your ally, he lets you know that he represents the invisible forces behind all manner of manifestation. He brings you the gift of optimism. You will rightly be inspired to move forward and take confident and assertive action to reach your goal, envisioning the path of the highest good with an optimistic outlook. The Fire Prince also brings you the gift of a miracle. These things come together as if by magic to create the reality you seek. You have every reason to be hopeful. Move forward knowing that you have everything you need and more. Just remember to share the enthusiasm, believe in others, and be optimistic for them too, and your good fortune will multiply. So again, this is kind of like when you want the best for everybody, you're going to get even more of the best for yourself. Okay. So if you are drawn to the butterfly cards, the first one is a new career. Okay. That could actually mean a new job. It also could just mean a new place. Like I'm also hearing maybe a new quote unquote station in life, like something like that. And this says this card signals a happy change in your work life, even if that change doesn't seem to be under your control. Rest assured that your career track is heading in the right direction and you are learning a much needed skill and lesson along the way. The more you stay focused on your highest visions, the smoother and faster you'll travel along your career path. However, stay flexible, as exciting new doors may open for you unexpectedly. This is a good time for you to make an employment change, provided that you're done planning and self-assessment first. Oh, you've done planning and self-assessment first. Instead of impulsively switching jobs, you're guided to research, prepare, and then take action. So get ready for it first. And then the additional meanings of this card are exciting part-time work, starting your own business, meeting with a career counselor, increased sales, launching a new product, trusting your business ideas, a new business partner, or taking a class towards your new career. So there's something about change in this, but it's something new, right? It could even be with the same company, but just a new position, if that resonates with you. So the second card was grief work, and that's basically just telling us that there's still some work to do to let go of grief. So this one says this card signals that your heart needs some healing from one or more losses. There's grief work to be done as a way of moving forward with your life. Already you can think of how this specifically applies to you. So what this is saying, and this is true with any card reading, like whenever I'm talking about the card or whenever you're reading about the card, whatever comes to your mind first is always the right answer, right? So don't go digging to find what it is. Like whatever you first thought of, and don't dismiss it as not being important enough, right? Because one of the things that I know happens sometimes is like we tell ourselves, oh, well, that's no big deal. Why would I be grieving over that? Like, don't do that. Like, I feel like somebody specifically needs to hear that too. Like, don't think that you shouldn't feel grief over something that other people might think is small. If it made a big impact on you, it's big. So whatever comes up, just trust that. Unhealed grief is compounded by each subsequent loss. Although it's uncomfortable to mourn and cry, sometimes it's the only path to healing. That's why it's best to heal with an experienced grief counselor, grief support, or trauma-trained specialist. Loss is one of the most painful processes of change, yet it can also help us develop compassion and more appreciation for life. So the additional meanings on this card says changes that feel like a loss. So again, if it's something small, like don't berate yourself if you feel like you're grieving over something that quote unquote shouldn't be a big deal, right? So anything that feels like a loss to you, honor that. You could be being called to be a grief counselor, like maybe it's time for that, or comforting a grief-stricken friend. So that could be any of those things, but there's something around grief that is calling for your attention right now. Okay. The third card, you guys, it's funny how these are so related to the readings I've been doing lately. Be true to you. Okay. So if you guys go back and listen to the Melchizedek one, the May, end of May, because that the one for the end of May was really moving all the way into really to the end of the year, but a lot into September. And I feel like even September, there's going to be something that is shifts. And then from September to December is going to be, but that I know that reading, I think they said to the end of the year. Um, so this card says, be true to you. You drew this card because of an inner conflict. You're struggling to make a decision about your next actions. You worry whether following your desired path is the right choice and how doing so will impact others. The answer is that you must be true to yourself. Any path where you compromise your vision will put you out of sync with the rhythms of success, health, and happiness. Of course, you'd never do anything to harm another person or ignore their needs. However, you can't ignore or harm yourself either. As you are truly happy, you're automatically lifted and you lift up those around you. You become a role model for following your inner truth. So this is just what I was saying in the beginning. Like, we have to start living in a heart-centered way. We have to start living from a way that really, truly resonates with us. And just really following our gut instinct and what feels good. I mean, obviously, none of us, if any of you guys that follow me or that are listening to this, like, I already know you never would do anything that would intentionally hurt somebody else. So that's not even an option. Like, it just wouldn't even be, right? So it's just about learning to follow the divine in a whole new way, and you will know in your gut if it's right or not. And sometimes the right thing is the hard thing, right? Like, that's the other thing too, is sometimes the right thing is the hard thing. So just trust that. Just know that you're really being supported. Like, our guides are coming in so strong and so big right now. And the more we can step into following the divine, the more that we can trust our hearts. And we've really got to shake loose of this what society thinks thing. Like, I really feel like that is huge. Like, we've got to let go of what society thinks we should do and just really start tuning into yourself. And maybe it's time for a really good evaluation, like reevaluate. Yeah, actually, you know what? It's Mercury retrograde. So right? Like, we kind of laugh about Mercury retrograde being rethink, reevaluate, repurpose, restore, like any of the RE words, like recommunicate, like whatever it is. So maybe you need to take a minute. Actually, I think this would be really good for anybody to take 15, 20 minutes or longer if you want to. Put on some, really good music and just reevaluate where you're at right now. Like, really take stock of where you're at right now and reevaluate what's important to you. What do you want moving forward? Like, maybe you're running after goals just because that's what society says we're supposed to do, right? Like, maybe it's time to look at, do I really want this, or is this just because I think this is what we're supposed to do, right? And then really say, what do you value? What really makes your heart sing? Like, what do you really want to experience, right? So I think we're in this really cool transformational time, obviously with the butterflies, it's all about life changes. And with the hidden realms going into, like, understanding that there's a whole nother, there's so many other realms of possibility within our life, and that it's time to really use the ancient wisdom that we're connected on a cosmic level to everything around us, and learning to really step into that divine within us. So, like, I kind of laughingly say that we've all got a God spark, right? So that God spark is like that spark of divinity within you. And I don't think that there's any, I mean, it was strategically that Jesus said, accept me in your heart, right? Like, it's like, open up that heart to the divine, to the truth, to knowing that there's so much more. So follow your heart is the biggest thing that I can say right now. Let go of whatever baggage you don't want to carry with you. We've got a few months left to be able to do all this work. And you can either do it willingly, like, okay, let me clean out my closet, or you can kick and scream and fight against everything that needs to come out. Like, it's totally up to you. But it's really going to determine how you experience. I was going to say this next few months, and my guides are like, no, this is really how you experience life. Like, you can experience life with grace and dignity and ease and and love, or you can experience life kicking and screaming. But it's almost like we're finally at this breaking point where it's one or the other, and you get to choose. So if you're willing to be brave enough to do the healing, if you're willing to be brave enough to understand that we can create our reality by focusing on the positive. And when I say that, like, the one thing that I always want to mention is when people say focus on the positive, like, I just posted this last week because I'm like, there's all these gurus that are like, oh, everything is sunshine and rainbows, which is all crap. Like, life is not always sunshine and rainbows, but it's about how you handle the storms when there is a storm, right? So, like, are you going to be terrified and panicked, or are you going to know that it's a storm and that you can, quote unquote, weather the storm? Like, so either way, you're going to have to experience the storm. Like, when a thunderstorm comes in, you've either got, you're going to go through it regardless. So either you're going to go through it with awe and amazement and wonder, going, holy cow, this thing's really strong, isn't this amazing? Or you're going to be like, oh my God, we're all going to die. Like, it's all with perspective of how do you go through it? Do you go through it with complete solid fear, hunkered down, hiding in a room, or do you go stand by a window? And I mean, obviously, if it's a tornado, don't go to the window, but you know what I mean? Like, that whole analogy of, are you going to watch the thunder and lightning and listen to it roll, or are you going to go hide in the closet somewhere? Like, again, this is not where I thought this reading was going today, but I really feel like we're at a point where it's time to choose. So, all right, guys, I love you. I'm going to leave it at that, and we will talk to you all soon.